Thursday was a typical day here at the Heart of America Teen Challenge home until late morning when the Douglas County Sheriff's Office arrived unannounced. Several officers showed up asking everyone to step outside the Lawrence facility that aims to help young men and women struggling through life. Mark Halford is the director. He's also the pastor of New Assembly of God in Baldwin City. The second location officer showed up to search. As officers were told to secure the location, and hours went by before a search warrant was served.
I refused to answer them. I basically said, you know what, I'm not going to answer those. You get a court order, and we'll discuss this.
The Douglas County Sheriff's Office says they are investigating a case of child neglect and endangerment. The teenager involved is a former student of Teen Challenge.
What their complaint is that a student was not given medical attention, and so they started taking things that were totally unrelated to anything.
Allegations the pastor and other members are calling ridiculous.
That's not true. All of our students are given medical attention if they need it.
Ridiculous. Totally ridiculous, because we do nothing but take care of the boys that are here.
Both the Teen Challenge home and the church already have legal counsel. They're hoping this matter is resolved quickly.
Lakeland boarding school for girls now under investigation and facing questions after a 17-year-old student died in their care.
17-year-old Naomi Wood arrived at the boarding school in February 2020, and just 3 months later, she died. A tally report from the Florida Department of Children and Families. It says her death was due to inadequate supervision and medical neglect. Wood had been complaining of stomach pain for a month. She was not taken to the doctor. Instead, staff members gave her Pepto-Bismol 20 times, soup, and also prayed for her to get better. Wood began vomiting on the evening of May 18th. The next day, she was found unresponsive in her room and later pronounced dead. Also in the report, the medical director for Florida's Child Protection Team noted that the academy uses the practice of shunning.
A state report obtained by 8 on Your Side shows medical neglect played a role in the death of a teenager in Polk County. She was attending a boarding school in Lakeland.
We're here outside Lakeland Girls Academy, also known as Teen Challenge. 17-year-old Naomi Wood arrived here from Vermont last year. Records show she died after getting sick and never seeing a doctor. The girl with an infectious smile, a love for the beach and maple cotton candy. Upon her death, her family wrote on their business website, quote, "It's been the hardest thing for our family to go through and still seems impossible." 8 on Your Side obtained the child fatality report from the Florida Department of Children and Families. It found inadequate supervision and medical neglect contributed to her death.
Tonight we have learned no criminal charges will be filed in the death of 17-year-old Naomi Wood. She's the one who collapsed and died at Lakeland Girls Academy last May after complaining of stomach pains. She asked to see a doctor, but instead was given over-the-counter medication and soup.
Hi, I'm at Lakeland Girls Academy, and I have one of those sisters on South sponsors, and we need an ambulance. She's been sick. She didn't go to school today. She's been in bed sick.
According to the autopsy, her death was due to a seizure disorder. But according to this DCF report, a month before she died, Naomi asked to see a doctor for chronic stomach pain, but never did. Instead, the report says she was given Pepto-Bismol nearly 24 times. The DCF report also states the death was, quote, consistent with delay in seeking care and medical neglect.
News: a private boarding school for troubled girls in Polk County has closed. It comes 2 years after a 17-year-old died there. She'd been asking to see a doctor for weeks, but died without ever receiving real medical care.
After Naomi Wood died at this place, the student population got lower and lower and lower, and presumably as a result of that, the organization, the national organization that runs the place called Teen Challenge, just decided to close it. Naomi Wood was 17 years old, bubbly and full of smiles.
I miss her hand, grabbing my hand and hearing her voice say, "Dad." Probably the most.
Naomi died while under the care of Lakeland Girls Academy, a place where troubled teens came for help. After a firestorm of controversy, it just closed. Her family says it was long overdue.
The bottom line is she was neglected, and there's a good chance she would be alive today had they actually taken action and took her to a doctor.
Polk Sheriff's Office launched an investigation. No one was charged criminally. However, Naomi's story encouraged former students to tell their stories about what was life at the school. Grace Coburn and others described living under unyielding rules and in isolation.
We had no way of calling anyone on our own, getting help for ourselves. All of our abilities to access the outside world were completely taken away from us.
The school's disciplines, such as shunning, also came under fire. Naomi is gone, so is Lakeland Girls Academy. But Teen Challenge, which runs schools like this all over the country, is still operating them.
Teen Challenge needs to take a look at their medical protocols, number one, first and foremost.
Wood says, so what happened here hopefully doesn't happen anywhere else. Teen Challenge doesn't have any comment about this particular place being closed down, but I can tell you the attorney for the family, for Naomi's family, says that they plan to file a civil lawsuit against Teen Challenge here in Polk County by the end of the week.
It's just, a lot of times it's just hard to believe that happened, that Nick's not here anymore.
The old but rarely discussed practice of Christian arbitration.
I didn't know what that was. I didn't have a clue.
It's a poor witness to our God and to our faith if our first resort is to take things to court.
Bryce Thomas, as well as being a licensed attorney in North Carolina, is a nationally prominent Christian arbitrator who works with the Institute of Christian Conciliation. The Institute's rules govern most of the Christian arbitrations that take place in America. The Spivey family's distressing arbitration experience came when Cherie Spivey tried to sue the Christian drug rehab Teen Challenge for the wrongful death of her son.
I wanted someone to answer, you all told me Nick was doing really well. What happened? What went wrong? He's only been there 30 days. Just so many questions, and they were refusing to give me any information.
Spivey discovered that her son had signed a waiver when he was being admitted to the rehab, most likely still high on drugs. It said that he or his estate, should he die, would give up all rights to sue Teen Challenge in court and would instead undergo Christian arbitration.
My attorney would not be able to speak at all. She could attend, but she would have to sit in the back and not talk. It was led by all Christians, and to me it felt like we would go in there and pray, do Bible study, kiss and make up. And I wasn't willing to do that.
Eventually the matter was settled, at least in financial terms, with Teen Challenge paying out an undisclosed sum of money. Teen Challenge declined to comment on the case to us. Spivey remains unsatisfied about the facts surrounding her oldest child's death and frustrated in her efforts to find them out.
They don't give you the opportunity to get justice. Some things you can't just sweep under the rug and say, I'm sorry that happened. Let's move forward from here. Some things, I'm sorry, is just not enough. And ultimately, that's what Christian arbitration is everybody just finds a way to get along.
A state investigation is underway in a well-known center for troubled teens. The Environment Department tells us it already found violations with the Teen Challenge of New Mexico. We've also learned CYFD is investigating.
Teen Challenge is a place for young men and women to learn about school, faith, and how to better prepare themselves for adulthood. But at the Young Men's facility near Clayton, New Mexico, some of the young teens experienced far more than they signed up for. Cleaning up raw sewage from an overflowing septic tank in shorts and T-shirts. The pictures were snapped at Teen Challenge's adolescent boy facility in Greenville, near Clayton up north. It prompted a visit from the state environmental department, and this violation inspection report from last month, the state warns the facility about the huge sewage backflow. Teen New Mexico responded to the complaint, saying it would properly clean up the site, and blames what you see in the photos on a former employee. But a page straight out of Teen Challenge's own student handbook clearly indicates sewer cleanup needs to happen twice a week. Sources say all of it has prompted CYFD to launch its own investigation into just what was going on in Greenville, for how long, and who is responsible. Teen Challenge's New Mexico director would not comment on the record, instead referring us to an attorney. While all of this has been going on, the boys' facility has quietly closed, sending home its handful of male students.
And Teen Challenge Center, that 10 people were taken to an area hospital out of an abundance of caution, concerned about possible carbon monoxide poisoning. We're told that there were some crafts being done, some woodworking in a basement area earlier in the day. I'm told that they used a saw that they don't normally use, and that the ventilation was not great in that room, and that there may have been fumes in that room as well. One of the participants in that wood shop, we're told, began feeling ill a short time after the crafts ended. That was when the fire department came, and it turned out that they wanted to send the fire department, everybody that was in the crafts shop, to the hospital.
Right now, Kansas City, Missouri police are looking for 3 missing girls.
The crash victims are from this local faith-based group here in Sapulpa, which helps people recover from substance abuse. Now, the group of men was traveling back from Henrietta yesterday after a church service. The van was going northbound on Highway 75 just south of Glenpool. The driver felt something was wrong with the van, so he slowed down to about 45 miles per hour. Then he says a truck came out of nowhere and slammed into them, sending them off the roadway into a field. The van driver, who's also the director of Green Country Teen Challenge, says the accident could have been much worse.
Former director of the Kelowna branch of the BC Teen Challenge Society is alleging he was fired after uncovering embezzlement by another director. He says that he went through some surveillance footage after he noticed some funds missing back in November.
In that security footage, I found our regional director, Mark DeKoning, going to the safe, removing the cash, and then removing the according receipt for that cash deposit. And when he removes the receipt, he goes over to the shredder and shreds it. And after I had seen this happen, I went to the shredder and I was able to paste back together that receipt to show that the deposit that had gone missing was also the same one that he had shredded.
Russo says he tried to show the footage to the charity's leadership, but they did not want to believe the man caught on camera was capable of theft.
Now, the reason for this is, and you have to appreciate, Mark had been a very high-level, very trusted executive. He's the longest-term employee that we've had at BC Teen Challenge, and specifically here in the Okanagan, so very loved and very trusted. So when this had come out that it was him, the original thought was this is just disbelief.
The accused, Mark DeKoning, was the charity's regional director and involved with the group for over a decade. Russo says he found multiple records missing and other irregularities with the charity's firewood fundraising program that primarily deals with cash.
And I found a trailer that had been sold in July for $6,000 cash, where Mark had directly handled that cash and that sale, and that cash never made it to our bank.
Russo confronted DeKoning and the charity with his findings that alleged tens of thousands of dollars were taken. Russo says DeKoning ended up admitting to a much smaller amount.
Like, for us, the matter is closed. Yes, that person who was accused is no longer an employee, and he resigned his position. And basically we said to him, in 6 months from now, should you do these things that we're asking you to do, we will consider employment again.
Russo wanted to get the RCMP involved, but instead was fired himself over a disagreement on how quickly DeKoning would be reinstated.
His character his philosophy in life does not align with what we would deem a person suitable to oversee a center.
Russo says instead of going to the RCMP, the charity wanted to present de Koning with the evidence to allow him to explain himself.
Is that we believe in the law. We believe in law and order. And if there was something that the RCMP needed to deal with, or there was some kind of public, where the public was in danger or somebody was in danger, we would always cooperate. And that's what I said to the RCMP. We're not trying to be uncooperative here, but we also don't believe that we don't want to ruin somebody's whole life. We would rather deal with it in-house.
Russo claims Teen Challenge refused to open their books to the RCMP, which has led to the Canadian Revenue Agency to get involved. The CRA said it could not comment on whether it was investigating the charity due to privacy concerns. He says he's gone to the media as a last resort and hasn't taken any legal action against the charity, nor does he want his position back.
I was in a position of leadership over vulnerable men. A lot of the men in our program come in right off the streets or in a really bad position financially. Either they're in debt collections or they're just not well off, and they're trying to get their life back together. They're trying to get clean from their addictions. When I found out that student rent had been one of the key areas where Mark had taken advantage of to steal, it was personal for me.
Russo is requesting anybody who has made an e-transfer to any director to send a digital copy to charitytheft@gmail.com. de Koning has not been criminally charged, and he has not responded to a request for a comment.
Turn out 9 women have filed a federal lawsuit against a Lebanon residential program for teen girls alleging widespread abuse. The women were residents of the Central Indiana Teen Challenge from various time periods ranging from 2013 to 2018. It's a faith-based facility for teens who struggle with mental health issues, drugs, or alcohol. The women claim they were subjected to extensive forced isolation, including being placed in a safe room for up to 30 days. They also claim they were forced to eat under extreme conditions, including while vomiting. And the facility served outdated, moldy food. The I-Team reached out to the facility for comment. It now operates under the name the Refuge Girls Academy.